Hello everybody and welcome to the Canguro English Daily Digest. Thank you very much to my patrons on Patreon for making this possible. I've been a little bit busy the past few days. I apologize for not being able to upload. Basically tomorrow I'm going to London to start filming the videos for the Fluentify English course. So I'm a little bit stressed trying to organize everything. So I'm ready to go and film. And so anyway, today's word of the day is this. Today's word of the day is this. Rebuff. Rebuff means basically to reject. So, for example, if you go, imagine you're in a bar, and you see a beautiful, attractive person. Okay, you're like, wow, and you go over and you say, hey, what's happening? And they rebuff you. Oh, you are rebuffed. It's a bad thing. Now, this word, this comes from Italian, ribuffare. So the buff is literally the sound of this, buffo, a puff of air. So, and you can imagine someone comes to you and you're like, buffo. Rebuff, go away, okay? So being rebuffed is bad. It's a bad thing. Now, this leads me on to the next thing I want to talk about, which is why is there so much vocabulary in English for being polite? Like, why do we have all of this polite language in English? And because I've been doing some research about politeness for the Fluentify course, and my mind is blown because basically I didn't realize that politeness theory exists. There is actually an entire field of study called politeness theory. And it's really fascinating. And I mean, I always said to my students that, politeness is part of the culture and it's reflected in the language. But I never really understood why. But now I do, now I know. And it's actually opened my mind to understanding English culture better, but also understanding the Spanish culture where I live. So it's really important, right? So let me go to the board quickly, okay? So because I need to draw something. Okay, so in every culture, okay, in every culture, there's this idea that we have something called face, okay? So this is my face. Now let me move this light because it's very distracting. So now the face, right? Face is what you could say is your honor, your honor. What's another synonym? It's like your personal. Very difficult to define. It's like your prestige as well, right? It's like you imagine the famous stories of Japanese culture, right? When Japanese people fail, they kill themselves. I think it's not called harikari; it has another name, right? And the idea is that this is your honor, your prestige, your self-worth, your self-esteem is your face, right? And most people in society everybody wants face. They want to be honorable and have high self-esteem. They want to be good people, right? Now, there's this strange thing that exists. Okay, you have positive face and negative face, and that gives us positive politeness and negative politeness, right? So, in positive politeness, the idea is that we are creating this honor. Okay, so we're going in this direction. We're trying to build and create honor every day. But negative politeness in other cultures is we are born with honor. We have prestige, and then what can happen is we can lose that. We can go down. Okay? So, and some cultures have a tendency, they prefer this to try to build face, and other cultures have a tendency to worry about losing face, right? So we could say that, to give an example, a general example, English culture is about losing face. Okay, so this is English. But Spanish culture is about building face. So I'll give you an example, right? When in the morning, when I go to order a coffee, I always go in and I say, "Good morning, how are you? Da 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 da. Can I please have a coffee?" Right? and literally, a Spanish person will come in the bar and they'll drop €1 on the bar and they'll say, "Coffee." That's it. There's no like hello, buenos dias. There's no like nothing. It's just €1 coffee. And I always thought, oh my God, that's so rude. But this explains why. Okay, so think about this abstract example. So when you first meet a friend, like imagine the first time that you go out with a friend. If the conversation is very silent, if there's a lot of silence, it's awkward. It's uncomfortable. Silence is uncomfortable. You have to try to force to make the conversation. Right? But when you know the person for 10 years, it's okay to sit and drink a beer or sit and say nothing. Silence is okay. Because you're friends, the context is different. And so my example is similar. So in a British mentality, right, what we want is we are worried about the other person losing face. So when I order my coffee, I don't want the other person to lose honor. I don't want them to lose self-esteem by saying, "Hey, make me a coffee. Café con leche." Right? That's my concern. It's part of my DNA is I'm trying to protect their honor. I don't want this for them, right? But a Spanish person, when they say café con leche, they are actually building honor in the other person by saying, "Hey, we're friends. We are comfortable. We don't need all of the extra language. I'm friends with you." And so it's a question of saying, "You're in my group. I like you. We're friends. We don't need all of the extra language because we understand each other." And last night, when I understood that, when I realized that it's fundamentally a different mentality, fundamentally, I realized, okay, so now I get it. Now I understand why a Spanish person can say café con leche, because it's not rude, it's the opposite. It's actually saying, we're friends, we don't need the extra talk. And in fact, the opposite, like, if I am really formal, if I use a lot of extra language, people might think that I'm being distant and false and cold. So me, with an English mentality in Spain, trying to be polite could have the opposite effect. The opposite effect. And so if you are in an English, in a country with an English sort of, with a negative politeness mentality. Now, so that could be like Japan, Australia, America, England. You have to be careful, because if you're too friendly, it can be negative. So there's this. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. It was something new for me. I don't know if it's new for you, but it's new for me anyway. And nunca te acostarás sin aprender una cosa más. You should never go to bed without learning a new thing. Okay. I have to go and work. I'll see you all later. Have a great day. Go do something with your English and be polite.